She posted a video mocking me that went viral online, faced with tears of joy, and thought it was the end of my story. I stayed silent. Months later, my success became impossible to ignore, and she couldn't escape seeing it everywhere she looked. "Oh my God, did you seriously think this was going anywhere?" She laughed when she said it. Not a small laugh either, the kind that fills a room, bounces off the walls, and lands somewhere right in the center of your chest like a fist. I didn't say anything. I just stood there in the middle of her apartment, holding a jacket I'd come to pick up, and I let the silence do the work my voice couldn't. She didn't mean it as a question. She meant it as a verdict. And the worst part? She had a ring light on behind her, a phone propped up on the counter at the perfect angle, and a smile that wasn't quite for me. It was for whoever was watching. I didn't realize it then. But that moment, that exact, specific, humiliating moment, changed absolutely everything. I need you to understand something before I go any further. I'm not telling this story for sympathy. I'm telling it because there's a version of me that almost believed her. Almost let that laugh become the last word. And if you've ever had someone stand in front of you and decide, out loud, in front of an audience, that you were nothing, then you already know what the next few months of my life felt like. The thing she didn't know is that silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes silence is the most dangerous thing in the room. I was 26. We'd been together for 2 years and some change. She was from a wealthier part of town, well-connected, the kind of person whose social circle treated dinner reservations like a competitive sport. I was working a mid-level marketing job at a small agency, renting a one-bedroom apartment that had a leak above the bathroom door I kept meaning to report. That's the whole picture. That's all you need. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. Her name was Cassandra, not the mythological kind who nobody believed, the modern kind who everyone believed way too easily. She was beautiful in that specific way that makes people give her the benefit of the doubt before she even opens her mouth. And she knew it. I met her at a mutual friend's rooftop birthday party 2 summers back. She was wearing a white sundress and holding a glass of wine and talking loudly about a trip she'd taken to Portugal. And I remember thinking, she's completely out of my league, and also she knows exactly how loud she's being. We still ended up talking for 3 hours. She laughed at the right things. She asked follow-up questions. She texted me first the next morning. 2 years in, I thought I understood her. Looking back now, I understood maybe 30% of who she actually was. The other 70% was performing. The cracks were there earlier than I want to admit. Small ones, at first. A comment here or there about my salary. A joke in front of her friends about how I still hadn't figured out the whole ambition thing. A long pause when I mentioned an idea I had for starting something on the side, followed by a slow smile and a "that's cute, babe." I told myself it was just her communication style. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself a lot of things. There was one dinner with her friends. This was maybe 8 months before the end, where her friend Tobias was going around the table asking everyone what their 5-year plan was, half joking, half not. When it got to me, Cassandra jumped in before I could speak. "He's still working on his 1-year plan," she said. Everyone laughed. I smiled because the alternative was making a scene. But I noticed something that night. She watched my face after she said it. She wanted to see what I'd do. I filed that away somewhere I didn't look at consciously yet. 6 weeks before the video, something shifted. I'd been quietly working on something for almost a year at that point. Nothing huge on the surface. A small content consultancy. Just me and 2 freelancers I'd met through work, taking on projects that my agency kept turning down because they were too small to be worth it. Turns out, small clients who feel genuinely seen and served are the most loyal clients on earth. Word started spreading in the way that slow things spread, not with a bang, but with a pattern. 1 client became 3. 3 became 9. I wasn't rich. I wasn't even close. But I had something building. I told Cassandra about it cautiously, on a Sunday morning over coffee, the way you test the temperature of water before you step in. She looked at her phone while I talked. She said, just make sure it doesn't distract you from your actual job." I didn't say anything, but I remember looking at the back of her hand, the way she scrolled without looking up, and thinking, there is something deeply wrong here, and I've been too close to see it. That thought came and went. I should have let it stay. 3 weeks before the video, we had the fight. Not the last fight, but the one that mattered. She'd been at a work event the night before and came home loud and loose and cheerful in that specific way that means she'd been talking about something all evening that had nothing to do with me. I was still up, working on a proposal. She glanced at my screen and said, "You're still doing that little project thing?" "It's not little," I said. Not aggressively. Just clearly. She tilted her head. "Babe, I love you. But nobody's going to pay you real money for this. 3 clients already are." 3. She laughed. "Right." I closed my laptop. I turned around in my chair. I looked at her directly and said, "Why does it bother you when I try something?" The room went quiet in a specific way. She stared at me. Then the smile came back, but it was different now. Thinner. "It doesn't bother me," she said. "I just don't want you to embarrass yourself." I didn't respond. She went to bed. I sat in that chair for another 40 minutes doing absolutely nothing, just turning that sentence over in my head like a coin I couldn't figure out the denomination of. The video went up on a Wednesday. I didn't find it myself. A coworker sent me the link with 3 question marks and no explanation. The thumbnail was her, smiling, ring light on. The caption read, "My boyfriend thought he was starting a business faced with tears of joy. The delusion is actually so sweet." I clicked. 62 seconds. That's all it was. She sat in front of her ring light and described, in patient, gentle, mocking detail, a conversation we'd had. My idea. My proposal. The specific way I'd explained my business model to her once over dinner, which she'd apparently found funny enough to remember word for word. She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. Everyone who knew us knew. She kept calling me my little entrepreneur in a voice so sweet it made your teeth ache. At the end, she looked directly at the camera and said, "I love him, I do. But someone has to keep him grounded, right? Otherwise he'd be out here thinking he's Jeff Bezos." Then she laughed. Then the video ended. It had 47,000 views at the time I watched it. By the end of that day, it was at 200,000. By the end of that week, the number stopped meaning anything I could hold on to. People were quoting it. Reaction videos. Stitches. Comment sections full of laughing emojis and people tagging their own partners. This is literally us LMAO. She's so sweet about it though. Goals honestly. A small corner of the comments felt different. A few people saying, "Wait, that's kind of mean." But they were buried under the avalanche. She was posting updates, replying to comments with hearts, riding the wave like she'd been waiting for it. I read every single comment. I don't know why I did that to myself. I think some part of me was looking for evidence that I was wrong about what this was. I didn't find it. I called her, not to yell, to understand. She picked up on the second ring, and before I could say anything, she said, "Before you get upset, it was just a fun thing. People love that kind of content." "Did you film it while I was there?" I asked. Silence. "The night I came to get my jacket," I said. "The ring light was on. You had your phone set up." More silence. "You filmed my reaction," I said. "You filmed me standing there." "I didn't post that part," she said, very quickly. I hung up. I want to be honest about the next 48 hours because they were not pretty, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I sat with a kind of humiliation that's different from regular embarrassment. Regular embarrassment burns fast and fades. This was slower. This was the feeling of being studied without knowing it, displayed without consenting, laughed at by strangers who thought they were laughing with someone. I went through the motions of 2 workdays. I did not eat well. I slept less than 4 hours each night. I thought about posting something. I thought about calling her back. I thought about a lot of things that would have made me feel temporarily better and permanently worse. I didn't do any of them. On the 3rd day, something clicked. Not dramatically, not like a movie, just quietly, like a light in a room you didn't realize was dark. I sat down at my laptop. I opened the proposal I'd been working on the night of the fight. I kept going. That was the whole decision. I just kept going. We officially ended 2 days after the call. She texted. She said she was sorry if it upset me, but that she thought I could take a joke. I replied with one sentence. I hope the content was worth it. She didn't respond to that. I didn't follow up. I blocked her on everything that evening. Not with anger, but with the kind of quiet practicality you use when you're cleaning out a space to build something new. The decision felt less like a breakup and more like removing an obstacle I'd been stepping around for too long. The next 3 months are the part one want to describe carefully because it wasn't magic. It wasn't a montage. It was Tuesday mornings with bad coffee going cold. It was saying no to going out 3 weekends in a row because I needed the time. It was a client call that went badly, followed by revising the pitch, followed by sending it again. It was small, very small for a very long time. But there was a difference now. Nobody was making me feel like the idea was embarrassing. Nobody was watching my face with that thin smile waiting for me to flinch. I worked in silence, and the silence felt for the first time in a long time, like mine. My second hire came 3 months post-breakup. A young woman named Petra who was overqualified for what I could pay her and who I told that honestly, and who said she didn't care. She believed in the direction. I hired her on a revenue share model because I couldn't afford anything else. 6 weeks later, she brought in 2 clients on her own. I gave her the salary retroactively. She cried a little. I pretended not to notice. That was the moment I understood something important. When you stop spending energy managing someone's opinion of you, you get an extraordinary amount of that energy back. Every hour I'd spent carefully calibrating what I said around Cassandra's reaction, measuring my enthusiasm, softening my certainty, pre-defending my ideas before they even left my mouth. All of that came back to me, and I put it to work. Month 4. A mid-sized brand reached out after seeing a case study one of my early clients had posted about the work we'd done together. Not a cold inquiry. They'd done their research. They wanted a full strategy engagement, the biggest single contract I'd ever been offered. I was on the phone with their head of marketing for an hour and a half. When I hung up, I sat in my apartment kitchen for a few minutes just breathing. Then I made coffee. Then I got back to work. No ring light. No audience. Just the work. Month 5 was the month that Cassandra's video resurfaced. Not because of anything I did. Someone had made a follow-up trend out of it. One of those where are they now styles, and a few creators who'd originally engaged with her content started tagging her, asking for updates. She posted a casual follow-up, said we'd broken up, said she wished him well, and still thought the whole thing was adorable. She got some engagement from that too. I know because someone sent it to me. I watched it once. Then I closed it. Month 6. The brand contract closed. I'm not going to share the number because that's not the point of this story. But it was enough to register. Enough to matter. Enough that when I updated my business page, which I'd barely touched in months, and posted a quiet, single-line update about the partnership, something unexpected happened. People who knew both of us started noticing. Not because I posted anything dramatic. Not because I tagged anyone or referenced anything. Just because success is visible in a way that silence isn't. And our world, the city we both lived in, the overlapping social circles we'd shared, was smaller than it seemed. I heard through 3 separate channels what her reaction was. I wasn't looking for the information. It found me the way information always finds you in a small world. Her friend Tobias, the 5-year plan guy from that dinner, apparently ran into Petra at a networking event. He asked about the company. Petra said we'd just closed a major brand partnership. Tobias asked whose company. Petra told him. According to the person who told the person who told me, he went quiet for a second and then said, "Huh, good for him." But the version I found more interesting wasn't Tobias. It was what happened 2 weeks after the brand announcement, when that same content started circulating again. Not the original video. Screen caps. Side-by-sides. Someone had put her little entrepreneur clip next to a trade publication mention of our new partnership. No caption needed. The comments wrote themselves. She reached out. I want to be careful about how I describe this because I'm not interested in performing revenge, and I'm not interested in pretending I felt nothing. The message came through on a platform I hadn't blocked her on because I'd forgotten about it. It said, "Hey, I've been seeing things about your company. Genuinely happy for you. I know things ended weird. Hope you're well." I read it 3 times. Not because I was considering my response, but because I was noting, with a kind of detached curiosity, how language shifts when the power does. Ended weird. Not. I filmed you without your consent and used your vulnerability as content. Not. I spent 2 years telling you that your ambitions were embarrassing. Not. I laughed at you in front of an audience that eventually reached 700,000 people. Ended weird. I put my phone down. I didn't respond that day. A few days later, I thought about it again. Not obsessively, just honestly. I tried to locate some buried anger that I could serve her with as a reply. I couldn't find it. What I found instead was something closer to pity. Not the condescending kind, but the genuine kind. The kind you feel when you realize someone taught themselves to mistake cruelty for honesty, mockery for groundedness, control for love, and that they probably don't even know they did it. She wasn't a villain. She was just someone who confused tearing things down with being real and praised herself for it. I replied once. Just 1 line. "Thanks. Take care of yourself." I meant it. Both parts. I want to tell you about a specific moment that happened maybe 2 weeks after that exchange, because this is the part that I think about the most. I was at a coffee shop I liked, early morning, working on a new proposal. A woman at the table next to mine was on a call, loud enough that I caught pieces of it without trying. She was telling someone, her friend, I think, about a guy she'd started seeing. He's sweet, she said. But honestly, his whole startup thing is a little, I don't know, a little much. Like, he talks about it like it's already a thing, you know? I didn't look up from my screen, but something in my chest moved. Because I knew that guy. I had been that guy. And I knew exactly what it felt like to have your belief in something you were building get treated like a personality flaw. I wanted to lean over and say something. I didn't. But I stayed in that feeling for a minute. All the people who have someone like that standing next to them, pouring water on whatever small fire they've managed to start, calling it love, calling it keeping them grounded, not knowing, maybe never knowing, that the most dangerous thing they'll ever do to someone they claim to love is make them ashamed of wanting more. The business crossed a threshold I'd privately set for myself at the end of month 7. I won't describe it in detail, but I remember the evening it happened. I was at my desk. My laptop screen was the only light in the apartment. I sat with it for a few minutes. Then I texted Petra. We hit it. She sent back 3 exclamation points and a voice note that I still have saved somewhere. That was the whole celebration. No ring light. No audience. Nobody performing anything. Just 2 people who'd built something real, acknowledging quietly that it had arrived. The video still lives online. I've checked. Not regularly, but occasionally. It has nearly 1 million views now. The comments section has shifted over time. More and more people pointing out the undercurrent of what she was doing. Fewer people calling it cute. More people using words like subtle and undermining and red flag. She posted about it once more, a little defensive, a little self-aware, saying she'd learned that content about partners can land differently than intended. That's one way to put it. I didn't comment. I've never commented. My silence on that video is the only response I've ever given it, and it's the most honest response I have. People ask me sometimes, people who know the story, who were around for pieces of it, whether I'm glad it happened. Whether the whole thing, the humiliation and the video and the 700,000 strangers laughing, was secretly worth it. And I've thought about that question honestly. Here's what I've landed on. I'm not glad she made the video. I don't think it was meant to be in any cosmic sense. I don't believe humiliation is a prerequisite for success. What I believe is this. I had everything I needed to build what I built before she ever touched that ring light. The ideas were already there. The work ethic was already there. The ability was already there. What wasn't there was the space. And she, unintentionally, with a 62-second video meant to mock me, finally gave me that space by removing herself from it. That's not a gift I'm grateful for. That's just an outcome I'm clear-eyed about. Here's the last part. About 2 months ago, one of her old posts surfaced in an algorithm somewhere and landed in front of a new audience. The original video. The Little Entrepreneur one. By this point, our company had been written about in 2 publications. Petra had been promoted. We had a team of 6. The same video that once played as a joke now played as something else entirely. People were sharing it again, but the captions had changed. This did not age well. Imagine being this woman right now. The guy she was laughing at just closed, the deal that had been covered in the trade piece. She posted nothing in response. She went quiet for about 3 weeks. I noticed because someone mentioned it. I didn't feel triumphant about it. I felt, if I'm being honest, nothing much at all, which surprised me the first time I noticed it, and then stopped surprising me. Because the truth is, I hadn't been thinking about her. I'd been thinking about the next client, the next proposal, the next step. The work had completely crowded out the wound, not by forcing it, but just by being more interesting than it. That's the thing nobody tells you about building something after someone tries to diminish you. They expect you to be motivated by revenge. They think the headline of your success is going to read, "I did this to prove her wrong." But it doesn't work like that. Not really. Revenge requires you to keep the other person at the center of your story. And at some point, for me, it was somewhere around month 3, somewhere around my 3rd bad Tuesday, I stopped writing her into the story at all. She became a chapter, not even a long one, just a chapter you move through on the way to something bigger. She's still out there, still posting, still building her audience, which is actually reasonably sized now, still laughing at the right things, asking follow-up questions, texting first. And maybe she's changed. Maybe she looks back at that ring light and feels something real about what she did. Maybe she doesn't. I genuinely don't know. What I know is that the last time I showed up in her orbit, in that comment section, in those side-by-sides, in the quiet hum of a social world that connects everything eventually, She had to confront the fact that the thing she laughed at had become the thing she couldn't look away from. Not because I put it in front of her, but because it was just there, everywhere she looked. I still have the jacket, by the way, the one I went to pick up that night. It's hanging on a hook by my office door. Dark blue, good fabric. I wear it to client meetings sometimes. It fits perfectly. It always did. She just never thought I had anywhere worth wearing it.